unfortunately, what I was calling for has happened. It's here now. So this is 25 years later, and everything I predicted is coming true. So it's sad. I'm worried. I'm very concerned about humanity and the world right now.
Yeah, it is true. You have predicted all of this. You've been coming here to London into my studio. I came out there and saw you in Phoenix many years back. We've recorded hours and hours of conversations that I think have been watched 50 or 100 million times, Robert, something crazy. And you have been calling these things. I know it's a little sad that it's coming true, but it's also great to have you here because your credibility is at 100 when most people are down in the tens or teens. And that's why I think you're the best person to explain what people can do in this situation, how they can think about it and what's going to happen. So yeah, again, just appreciate everything you do, Robert. You're always out there just pushing the envelope. And again, you're up at 9 a.m. local just to keep doing this. Like you said, you retired 50 years ago, but you still seem to work every day, and I love it. So Robert, I want to jump into it. You've said that this will be the biggest crash in world history. Maybe explain why. What is actually happening right now that we might not see reported in the papers every day? What's actually going on?
So I said the biggest stock market crash is still coming. And this was after the 2008 crash. And the reason I could predict that the 2008 crash was just a prelude for the bigger crash coming, which we are in today in 2022. I mean, even China's crashing today. Because they never fixed the problem. In fact, the whole problem is that the global economic system is rigged. It's called the central bank system. You know, the Bank of Japan, the Bank of England, Bank of Japan, stuff like this. This whole system is rigged. So Fuller passed away in 1983. In 84, his book came out called The Grunch of Giants. And so he was already dead. And I'm reading Grunch of Giants, and Grunch of Giants stands for Gross Universal Cash Heist. It's how our wealth is stolen via our money. And that fit my whole internal belief system. You know, if you don't believe it, you think he's a whack job. But in 1984, I said, man, this guy is onto it. You know, Fuller is onto it. So I read Grunch of Giants, and that's how I can write books like Prophecy. And the way you know I'm not just blowing smoke today is you go get the book. And so what happened, 2008 crash, and then what that set up the biggest, as you know, because you have experience on Wall Street, it set up the biggest bull market in history. But it was based upon fake money. They just kept printing more, using more debt. Because as you know, Brian, money is debt. If we don't borrow money, money doesn't exist. So money comes into existence because every time you use a credit card, take out a mortgage, buy a car, that's when money is created. And that goes back to 1913. Again, the Federal Reserve Bank was created. You know, central banks, which is Marxism. And then in 1913, in America, the Internal Revenue Service was created, the IRS, because money cannot exist without debt and taxes. So I'm sitting there going, holy moly. You know, so every time I talk to you, I get the chills because you are on the inside of it. And I'm on the outside trying to figure it out. And what are these guys up to? And so that's why I wrote this book here. You can say, well, Kiyosaki's full of shit. You know, he's bullshitting. Read the fucking book. That's what I'm saying. You know, I mean, I practice what I preach, and I do what I say I'm doing. So anyway, that's how I could write Prophecy. And as you know, in 2021, China collapsed. And that's why COVID appeared again. Notice that? So Evergrande, which is the biggest, I think it's bigger than Lehman Brothers crash. And Evergrande's going down. Now, when real estate goes down, it's a financial crash more than anything else. They have 90 million condos in China not occupied. So what that does is it's this big sucking sound, you know, like it's going down the toilet right now. When real estate goes down, it takes all the economies of the world with it. Like, you know, Australia, one of my favorite countries, ships a lot of supplies to China. And there, Australia was booming because China was booming with real estate. And so in 2021, when it collapsed, that means Australia collapses more. But that's why I think Australia locked the country down also. Everybody to stay indoors and all this. I personally think they're afraid of civil unrest. And so I think that's why, COVID appeared in September 17, 2019. Our repo market collapsed. And the repo market is the shadow banking system, as they call it. You don't see that market, but I'm watching the shadow banking system. And when the repo market collapsed in September 17, 2019, voila, COVID appeared.
You say fake, and I think the last time you were here, Robert, in the studio, you were talking about your book Fake, and you were sitting literally right across from me in the studio, and you blew up a big balloon while you were talking to me. And then you popped it right in front of me. And you said, Brian, this is what's going to happen. And this was like 19, I think you were here. And now we're watching it happen. We saw the printing of money,
yes.
and now we're seeing it all fall down. And it's interesting, you made reference to me. I worked in the derivatives industry on Wall Street for many years, and I actually just had Jim Rickards on the show last week, and we spent a lot of time together in Phoenix. And it's interesting because we were kind of on the inside, and you were kind of on the outside, but we both came to similar conclusions, is
yes.
that there's a lot of money that's being printed. Most of the world doesn't understand that, and they kind of buy in to this idea. Do you feel like the world is starting to realize what's happening with maybe the advent sometimes of cryptocurrencies, or them seeing the massive QE that happened during COVID? Do you think like sometimes the curtain is being pulled back and that more people are realizing what's going on? Or are they just too poor to really see what's happening?
So something, Brian, I'm afraid it's going to get worse. That's why I write, that's why I speak. And again, I want to thank you for supporting me years and years ago when I was just this whack job, Chicken Little, running around saying stupid things. But unfortunately, today it's coming true.
Yeah. We're seeing it a lot now with these big inflation numbers, Robert. And these are scaring people because, I don't remember inflation like this since I was a kid, and the gas lines were happening, and it was like the early 80s and late 70s. And most of the people born on the planet today have never experienced inflation like this, and they're scared of it, rightly so. It's also a different type of inflation than maybe we saw back in the 80s. How do you tell people that they should get their heads around what's happening, and should they be panicking?
It's a tough one, Brian, because when I wrote this book here, Prophecy, right, a lot of the people giving financial advice, all they know is a bull market.
Yeah.
You see, they were born, just prior to 2008. They're now probably, let's say, 25 years old. They're financial planners, real estate brokers. And all they know is the S&P keeps going up. Don't fight the Fed. I mean, they're idiots. But unfortunately, without financial education in our schools, you can't blame them. But they don't know what a bear market looks like. And they don't know what inflation looks like, because inflation has made them rich. Because the Fed, what do they say? 40% of all money was printed in the last 2 years or something, some stuff like that. I don't know if it's true or not. But the M2, the money supply, is so huge today because they're trying to prevent the balloon from collapsing. They're desperate.
Yeah.
So when you take financial advice, be careful on their age. You and I have the wisdom, I'd rather be 25 years old, but there's something, I just turned 75, and there's something good about being 75. At least you've been screwed enough times you can wake up.
Yeah, no, it's true. Like you said, most of the financial planners have never actually been through a bear market. They've never experienced or even been alive to remember what inflation was like, or what some of the ramifications are for it. I think I saw you say somewhere that, most Americans don't have more than $1,000 to their name. And when you start inflating that, then that can become half of that. And then you've got most of the American public that are basically become broke. So this is something that can be really debilitating, that can just crush people that are already living on the edge because they've been encouraged to rack up debt, etc. So is this something people need to be very concerned about? And what can they do about upcoming inflation and even this upcoming crash?
Well, I think why is there inflation is they're trying to prevent the collapse. And Jim Rickards, he's one of the smartest guys I know. He says, prepare. We're going to collapse. And as people don't understand, most 98% don't understand this. The dollar is a reserve currency of the world, which came about in 1944 with the Bretton Woods Agreement. We can just keep printing money. But the rest of the world is collapsing right now. and everybody depends upon the U.S. printing. But that's why I watched China, and when Evergrande came down in 2021, the biggest real estate collapse in history, bigger than 2008, and all of a sudden they locked people down with COVID. I've seen this story before because it happened in 2019. They're desperate, Brian. They're desperate. They're looking for anything that can stop this thing. But every time they said to me, "Don't fight the Fed," I'm saying, "Don't trust the Fed," was my stay. Why would I trust those SOBs? They're a central bank system. The Rothschilds and all those guys controlled them. The richest families in the world control the central banks. And you said you pull the curtain aside. It's like the story of the Wizard of Oz. You pull the curtain aside. There's a little guy back there called the Fed chairman trying to keep the economy from collapsing them. But they're going to keep printing until the thing is destroyed. That's my prediction.
And is it going to, are they backed into a corner now? Is it getting to a point where they just can't keep printing to save it? And is that what we're seeing? All of these little cracks in the system, from inflation to these hikes. And QE was working for a couple of years. Is this the beginning of the end of that system being able to keep printing to save us?
Well, there's people much smarter than me who say that. I've been saying that for years, but I was the whack job, or the Chicken Little on the outside, some whack job I don't have a degree in finance. You know what my degree is in? What? Oil. I invest in oil wells today. I don't investigate in oil stocks. I want the real stuff. The Fed cannot print oil, Brian. You know that.
Not yet.
So what happened, my digressing. So when Biden took the Keystone Pipeline XL, whatever it is, off the list, oil went from $30 a barrel to $130 a barrel in a few days. So in other words, inflation went through the roof. It wiped out the middle class and the poor. But a guy like me who invests in oil wells, not oil stocks, I made so much money, because when the price of oil went up to 130 today, I think it's 105. I'm creaming it right now. Unfortunately, it's killing the poor and middle class because they can't put gas in the car, they can't buy groceries, and then they can't afford to shop.
Do not forget to click the like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel to join the community for more interesting finance contents like this. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next one.